I hereby call to order the 19th meeting of the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission for the year 2015, and I ask that you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning. Our first matter on today's agenda is the approval of the minutes for October 1st, 2015, and I recognize Vice Chairman Coleman as the editor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've reviewed the minutes of the October 1st, 2015 public meeting, and I move they be approved as submitted.
We have a motion by Vice Chairman Coleman to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second, joint second by Commissioner Whitmer and Commissioner Place. I'm going to hear everyone today and recognize everyone. Any discussion on the minutes? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Moving on to our agenda, call up our Director, Cheryl Walker Davis, to lead us through our agenda.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chairman, and good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
May it please this honorable commission, on behalf of your various offices and bureaus, we present for your consideration and disposition the following agenda items, commencing this morning with matters on behalf of the Office of Competitive Market Oversight on page 1. It is recommended that the commission adopt the recommendation there appearing with regard to the NRG retail affiliates petition for clarification and reconsideration of the commission's September 3rd final order with regard to certain electronic data interfaces.
So I have a motion to accept the staff recommendation.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Powelson, second by Vice Chairman Coleman. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Continuing now with matters on behalf of the Office of Special Assistance, commencing on page 2 of the public meeting agenda. It is recommended that the commission adopt the staff recommendation in the first item pertaining to Daniel Vermachek versus Pico Energy Company, noting the statement of Commissioner Whitmer.
So I have a motion to accept the staff recommendation.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Powelson, second by Vice Chairman Coleman. Under discussion, I will recognize Commissioner Whitmer.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like my statement entered into the record as if I had read it in its entirety. Today, we considered a recommendation regarding a request for reconsideration from a complainant who, in my opinion, clearly attempted to game the system in order to escape an ever-growing balance on his electric bill, a balance that now stands at almost $100,000. And while I am in complete agreement with the recommendation from the Office of Special Assistance, this case also serves as a stark reminder to all our utilities and a rebuke to PECO in particular to not allow this situation to occur in the first place. Additionally, this case highlights the importance of changes the legislature made to Chapter 14 in 2014. The Act provides The Act does a number of things, including requiring utilities to report annually to the Commission residential consumer accounts that have accumulated more than $10,000 in arrearages and enumerate efforts undertaken to collect the past due amounts. Act 155 also tightened the process for customers to acquire medical certificates, which the complainant in this case used on 4 separate occasions to avoid termination. While the events in this case occurred before the implementation of these changes, they highlight the significance of the changes that the legislature made to the Act. I recognize that it is not possible to completely prevent bad actors from attempting to take advantage of the system. However, it's critically important for the rest of the customers who are ultimately left footing the bills for such abuses that our utilities act vigilantly to prevent these types of activities from happening and to take steps to correct them as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Whitmer. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
In omnibus fashion, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the staff recommendations, commencing with the recommendation in the proceeding involving the complaint of Youngling Chang and Jiaming Who versus Metropolitan Edison Company, and continuing with the remaining item on page 2, as well as all items appearing on pages 3 and 4 through and including the recommendation in the joint interconnection proceeding involving Windstream Communications of Pennsylvania LLC and Blue Ridge Digital Phone Company.
Do I have a motion to accept the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Whitmer, second by Commissioner Powelson. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
On page 5 of the public meeting agenda, it is recommended that the commission adopt the recommendation involving the interconnection agreement between Frontier Communications of Pennsylvania LLC and Blue Ridge Digital Phone Company, noting your statement, Madam Chairman.
Do I have a motion to accept the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Whitmer, second by Commissioner Place. Under discussion, I will be just submitting my usual statement under the Frontier Communications cases where I will be recusing from voting because my brother is an employee of the company. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0, noting my recusal.
It is recommended that the commission adopt the staff recommendation in the proceeding involving the joint petition for approval of interconnection agreement between the United Telephone Company of Pennsylvania LLC, DBA CenturyLink, and Quantum Shift Communications, Inc., DBA VCOM Solutions.
Do I have a motion to accept the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Vice Chairman Coleman, second by Commissioner Powelson. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Turning now to matters presented on behalf of the Bureau of Technical Utility Services, it is recommended that the commission adopt the recommendation in the first matter with regard to PPL Electric Utilities Corporation's proposed refund and recoupment plan.
Do I have a motion to accept the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Place, second by Commissioner Whitmer. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
With regard to the proceeding pertaining to SQF LLC's application for approval to offer, render, furnish, or supply telecommunication services as a competitive access provider throughout Pennsylvania, there is your joint motion, Madam Chairman, along with Vice Chairman Coleman, as well as 2 separate statements, one from Vice Chairman Coleman and the other from Commissioner Powelson.
Do I have a motion to call up the staff recommendation for consideration?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Place and a joint second by Commissioner Powelson and Commissioner Whitmer to call up the staff recommendation for consideration. And I will turn it over to Vice Chairman Coleman to offer the motion.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and I would ask that our joint motion be entered into the record as though we had read it in its entirety. SQF LLC filed an application for certificate of public convenience from the Commission to operate a competitive access provider in Pennsylvania. SQF seeks authority to provide radio frequency transport and backhaul service to commercial mobile radio and service providers using a system of fiber optic cables and small antennas and conversion equipment attached to poles and other structures. SQF avers that it will provide both intrastate and interstate wholesale services in Pennsylvania. We agree with the recommendation to approve the application. However, in approving the application, we propose to specifically address several important regulatory obligations of SQF as a certified public utility. We remind SQF that a public utility seeking commission certification or that is certificated in Pennsylvania to provide telecommunication services as defined by state and federal law must provide the service in full compliance with all applicable provisions of Pennsylvania and federal law. This includes compliance with Section 1511E of Pennsylvania Business Corporation Law when citing facilities and equipment in public rights-of-way. We also remind SQF that certificated public utilities in Pennsylvania are required to file with the Commission an accurate and annual financial report and an accurate separate statement of gross intrastate revenue for fiscal assessment purposes, as received from operations conducted pursuant to the authority granted by the Commission. Therefore, we move that the ordering paragraph number 4 be amended to direct applicant to maintain accurate accounting records that properly classify and segregate its competitive access provider revenues from its operations within the Commonwealth, and to file with the Commission an accurate annual financial report and an accurate separate statement of gross intrastate revenues for fiscal assessment purposes. And secondly, that the Bureau of Technical Utility Service prepare a order consistent with this motion.
Do I have a second to the motion?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. On the staff recommendation as amended to the motion, I know we have discussion by calling Vice Chairman Coleman first.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And I would ask that my statement be entered into the record as though I read it in its entirety. My statement explains why I'm willing to grant SQF operating authority in Pennsylvania at this time, despite the fact that I believe there is a legitimate question as to whether we can certificate DAS providers like SQF. My statement also explains that I support initiating a formal proceeding to conduct a deeper dive on the legal and factual issues with certificating DAS providers. These issues have yet to been fully and openly vetted in an on-the-record proceeding by and before this commission, and proceeding of this nature would help to ensure that we do not single out any one DAS provider when it comes to public utility status. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Coleman. Commissioner Powelson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I ask that my full statement be entered into the record as if read in its entirety. Before the Commission here this morning is the application of SQF LLC seeking a certificate of public convenience. I supported the joint motion here this morning to revise the proposed order granting the certificate because it warns SQF about the importance of being respectful of property rights and attempts to get at the practice of potentially misreporting interstate revenues. However, I am compelled to vote no on the underlying order because I have serious concerns about whether the Commission can legally issue the requested certificate. SQF's business plan is to become an operator of distributed antenna system network, the capacity of which will be leased to retail commercial mobile radio service providers such as AT&T Wireless in order to provide a conduit to mobile phone and end user customers, which of course we all are ubiquitous wireless customers. The content will be mobile voice, internet browsing, texting, streaming video, and all the other functionalities of smartphones. SQF's antennas will be have been placed on municipal light posts, utility poles, buildings, and other structures, either privately owned or in a public right-of-way. After careful consideration, I conclude that SQF's service is outside of the Commission's lawful jurisdiction. SQF, in my opinion, is a wholesale CMRS carrier. Under state law, CMRS carriers are expressly excluded from the definition of public utility and hence may not be regulated by the Commission. Federal law expressively preempts any attempts by the Commission to regulate either market entry or the rates of a carrier providing CMRS services. As the FCC ruled last year, the determination of whether SQF's service is CMRS or some other type of wireless service is a factual matter. It would be proper, therefore, for the PUC to investigate this issue prior to the issuance of a certificate, but no such analysis has been undertaken yet. SQF has candidly stated that the principal, if not exclusive reason for its application is that without FCC spectrum license, municipal cable franchise, PUC certificate, or some other written government verification, a DAS operator will find it difficult to attach to utility poles or impose on a municipal structure. Thus, SQF this morning is asking us to grant a CPCN, not as a matter of regulatory policy or public protection, but to confer property rights so that CMRS signal enhancing facilities can be more easily constructed. And I need not remind anybody about an issue that occurred in Bucks County, Pennsylvania regarding this particular operator. Obviously, this is not a reason to issue a certificate of public convenience. But more importantly, I am not sure that the concern over attachments rights is even valid here this morning. Consider this. Congress and the FCC have broadly superseded local land use authority over DAS antennas as a matter of federal policy favoring wireless development. At the end of 2012, Pennsylvania enacted Act 191, which provides for a streamlined approval process for DAS co-location, modifications, and replacement of existing facilities. So we even have our own state law regarding this issue. Thus, it would seem that DAS providers have developed a favorable environment for ensuring that their equipment can be effectively positioned without a certificate of public convenience from the Commission. My basic concern here this morning is simple. A wireless service provider whose function is to aid the provision of wireless mobile services is asking the Commission to issue a certificate to enter a market in an apparent violation of both state and federal law. The Commission has no contact with this industry and exercises no oversight. The Commission, sitting here today, has no basis upon which to assess the impacts of CPCN's issuance upon a local municipality, a private property right owner, or the CMS industry itself. Toward that end, I support opening up a docket to accept public comment on the issue raised by DAS provider regulation. To the best of my knowledge, these issues have never been raised before the Commission, let alone addressed by this Commission. It is of high time that we develop an understanding of this industry that we purport to regulate. We should not continue to approve these CPCN applications with no real analysis or consideration of the ramifications to the general public. Therefore, I'm going to vote no on the overall motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Powelson. Any further discussion? So on the staff recommendation as amended by the joint motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Commissioner Powelson is opposed, so the motion passes 4-1.
Continuing with the presentation of agenda items, in omnibus fashion, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the staff recommendations in the proceedings commencing with the application of Nittany Energy LLC in the middle of page 6, through the remaining item on page 6, as well as all items appearing on page 7 through and including the letter notification of PPL Electric Utilities Corporation with regard to the existing Elliott Heights tap line in the city of Bethlehem.
Do I have a motion to accept the staff recommendations?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Whitmer, second by Vice Chairman Coleman. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Turning now to matters presented on behalf of the Law Bureau, again in omnibus fashion, it is recommended that the Commission adopt all of the recommendations appearing on page 8, commencing with the recommendation in the proceeding involving the implementation of Act 11 of 2012 and distribution system improvement charge. The remaining items on page 8, as well as all items appearing on pages 9, 10, and 11 through and including the recommendation with regard to the proposed rulemaking order pertaining to 52 PA Code Chapters 1, 3, 5, 23, and 29.
Do I have a motion to accept the staff recommendations?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Whitmer, second by Commissioner Powelson. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Turning now to matters presented on behalf of the Office of Administrative Law Judge with regard to the proceeding pertaining to the application of Orwell Natural Gas Company seeking approval for the transfer of their distribution system assets. There is the motion of Commissioner Place.
Do I have a motion to call up the staff recommendation for consideration?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Powelson, joint second by Vice Chairman Coleman and Commissioner Whitmer. And for discussion, I will call on Commissioner Place for his motion.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to have my motion read into the record as though I read it in its entirety. Before the Commission is the recommended decision of Administrative Law Judge Dennis J. Buckley on the joint petition for approval of application and adoption of settlement agreement for the transfer of Orwell Natural Gas Company distribution assets to Utility Pipeline Limited and the immediate transfer to Knox Cooperative Association, and for the abandonment of Pennsylvania regulated service by Orwell and immediate commencement of service by Knox. The settlement is a resolution of all issues raised in a protest by the Office of Consumer Advocate to the application. At the outset, I support the transfer as it will be beneficial to the customers whom Knox will serve. Additionally, I believe there are substantive customer protections in the settlement agreement. It is important that certain rights of Orwell's customers are protected, as this Commission recognized in previous Commission orders. Frankly, I believe, given the past history of similar transfers, that the rights of affected customers have been or will shortly be adequately addressed by the parties of this transfer. However, there is the potential that the Orwell companies will increase their overcollections due to continuation of the combination of lower than projected gas costs and recoupment of prior period undercollections until the change in the GCR rates become effective on November 1. However, the application and settlement do not address these overcollections or how these might be addressed once the asset transfer occurs. It is the Commission's responsibility to confirm that those overcollections are returned to the customers and that a final audit is conducted to determine the accuracy of any historical overcollections. To assure the protection of customers and as not to overburden the parties of this transaction, the order should be modified to recognize the party who has the responsibility of the distribution of the overcollections. Thus, as a condition of the approval of this transfer, the party should file with the Commission prior to the closing of this transfer a plan identifying the party responsible for the customer refund of the overcollection and the timetable for such distributions, and that the Commission shall be notified when the customer refund has been made. Further copies of the plan and the notification shall be provided to the Office of Consumer Advocate and the Commission's Bureau of Audits. Finally, the Commission's Bureau of Audits shall make a final audit of the distribution of the aforesaid overcollections. Lastly, I remind Knox that even after the transaction closes, that Orwell's distribution assets will continue to be the subject of the Commission's gas safety jurisdiction pursuant to Act 127. Therefore, I move that 1, the application and settlement agreement be approved as modified by this motion, and 2, the Office of Special Assistance prepare an order consistent with this motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Place. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Whitmer. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. On the staff recommendation as amended by the motion, any discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
That does conclude the presentation of regular agenda items. Turning now to the carry-in agenda. It is recommended on behalf of the Office of Special Assistance that the Commission adopt the staff recommendation in the proceeding involving the application of 610 Hauling LLC, TA College Hunks Hauling Junk.
Do we have a motion to accept the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Place, second by Vice Chairman Coleman. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Madam Chairman and Commissioners, that does conclude the presentation of public meeting agenda items.
Thank you. Before we gavel out, as you know, here in the Commission, we have many employees who have exemplary leadership skills. And today I wanted to take the opportunity to recognize one of them here in public meeting. What many of you may not know is that the PUC is one of the many agencies that participates in the Commonwealth's Leadership Development Institute. We've had announcement over the years of different staff people that have graduated from this institute. And this year we have Joyce Brown, who is an employee in our Human Resources office. I went to the graduation last Friday and was not only know that the leadership skills that Joyce has, but also recognized all the different leaders from the different agencies, 62 in total. So it was my first time going to the graduation program. I know Commissioner Powelson has talked about it in the past. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the exemplary practices that they followed this year in their class of 2015. There were 5 of them. And the first one was, in terms of leaders, they should inspire a shared vision. Leaders should envision the future and the creation of ideal and unique images of whatever the organization can become. The second one was to model a way as leaders. They should create and I'm trying to read my own handwriting, so excuse me. They should create standards of excellence and then set to be an example to others to follow. The third one was encourage the heart. Leaders should recognize individuals and celebrate their accomplishments. The fourth one was to enable others to act. They should foster collaborating and build spiritual teams and I can't read the rest, and empower others, excuse me. And the last one was to challenge the process, which leaders should search for opportunities to challenge the status quo. And I was very impressed by it and the things that were mentioned by all the different individuals that graduated from this program. So I wanted to take the opportunity to congratulate Joyce Brown, and I know she's here if she could stand and be recognized. Just want to congratulate her. She took several months out of this past year, to take part in this program, and we just want to thank her for that and know that she can come and share her leadership opportunities with those here in the commission. We also want to let people know that we are accepting applications or nominations for individuals at the commission that may want to be nominated in next year's program. So talk to your supervisor, talk to Jan Freeman, and we will be looking for those nominations. Other thing I wanted to acknowledge is that we do have a business literacy program that will be held later this afternoon. You guys have all received your email notices of that. I think it starts at 1 p.m. Is that correct? 1 p.m. And we have Terry Boston, who is the retiring CEO of PJM. And I think everyone should come out to hear Terry. He has a wealth of information that he can pass on to all of us. And finally, wanted to acknowledge that after we gavel out today, we will be having our Veterans Day observance program. And I wanted to point out that we wanted to bring to your attention the updated poster containing the names and the service branches of current PUC employees. We know that the original graphic was created in 2005, and we are pleased and proud that we have a ledger that accurately reflects our contemporary veterans. So after today's ceremony, the poster will be moved to its permanent home on the 3rd floor lobby. So with that, we invite you to stay after we gavel out for our Veterans Day observance program.